Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about a new company that you might have not heard of, is FreeFly. So let's dive right into it. Now, this is a small company that is working in tool environments, meaning they are making drones, they are making different types of gimbals, they are making different types of controllers. So they are a real company. They do make products, they do sell products. So they are kind of used to it. It's not just a Kickstarter scam. And they are branching into high speed camera. They are not making a camera like Kfinity is directly competing against Red. They are making a camera that is high speed. Basically, they are targeting Phantom. And what is their USP? Yeah, their USP is basically small, efficient, and cost effective. Because you have to understand, whenever you are dealing with drones, the things that make a camera very good, very easy to use when you are talking about a person dealing as like a cameraman, focus puller, DP, all that jazz, that's awesome. But the moment you put that same camera on drone, it becomes a hassle because there are too many buttons, too many monitors. So they want stripped down variant, and that's why like Red has less this approach, brain box, and everything else is optional. That's the reason for that. Same goes with RELX also. They have a small variant for drones specifically. So this company, because again they have experience with drone, they are like, hey, let's focus on that niche, high speed camera on drones, which are very rare. So small, efficient, and cost effective. They're not going to make their equipment as expensive as basically Phantom, so they do not have to provide as high speed or as high quality as Phantom. So their first product that was released 1 or 2 years ago, that was Wave. Now this had basically super 35mm sensor, almost the same size as proper APS-C, but it had global shutter sensor, which was really good option. And they did something interesting, because be mindful, at this point in time, almost all high-speed camera, what they do is dump footage from the sensor to RAM, and they keep it doing it continuously. So basically you arm the camera, so camera starts recording. That recorded data directly goes to RAM. Now it keeps doing that. Basically RAM can only record, let's say, 10 seconds. What happens is, if the camera was on for, let's say, 1 hour, well, all it keeps rewriting the past footage. When you pull the trigger, it saves basically last few seconds. Or in case of other design, it could be from basically camera is armed, camera is like you press the trigger, it saves few seconds ahead, but you only get few seconds. All high speed camera have that, because they are using RAM modules. They decided, hey, RAM modules on those things are not latest and greatest, they are not the largest capacity. What if we try to bypass that limitation by using high speed storage, basically NVMe SSD? To give you in context, NVMe is so fast that its latest variant, as in like DDR5 variant of that, is so fast that it's faster than the RAM. As in like DDR5 RAM versus DDR5 SSD, DDR5 SSD would be faster. And that's the creation of new technologies in the server space, where again people are directly expecting RAM to become something just bare minimum. Majority of the work will be done by SSD, because it's so goddamn fast. So it's not unheard of. It's like, how the heck they could do that? It is doable. It's quite easily doable. And given the fact these camera, even that max throughput is 1 Gbps, we had NVMe SSDs for like 5 years that can do that kind of speed. Right now it's cheap to do that. So they have no clip length, which is the first time, like, instead of like, hey, you are only limited to 5 seconds, only limited to 10 seconds, generally you will get even fewer seconds if you are doing what you call higher frame rate. So every camera will give you a frame rate at like 4K or HD, and then it will, you can keep reducing the frame size and getting more and more FPS. So you'll always have clip length limit. Here there is no limit, meaning if your SSD is fully free, you can keep recording for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, which is unheard of in case of basically high speed camera. Or if you are like only few is left, you can use that. It's not limited. It has manual locking E mount, which is good in the sense that you can use in mount, useless in the sense that you can't use majority of the Sony lens, because again Sony lenses and many Sigma lenses and many newer lenses are what we call drive-by-wire. They need electrical system, meaning they have encoders and motors. Encoder talks to the camera, camera figures out what it's supposed to do, then sends the impulse to the motors driving it. So you can only use manual lenses on this puppy. It can record in 10-bit compressed RGB. Basically it's almost a raw format, and then this format goes into your basically desktop editor, and that desktop editor can print out basically a file that you need. Basically that would be in Apple ProRes, because they have license from that. So it will be very easy to use. And it has internal battery, which is genuinely stupid, because again, if the battery drains out, you have to wait for it to charge. You cannot swap battery, which genuinely was a very weird oversight. It has internal SSD. Again, I kind of get it. That's the easiest way to guarantee that you will have the throughput that you need. And this puppy comes with around, right now in the marketplace, you can buy it for 2 TB model. There is no other model, and I kind of like that there is no point of selling you a garbage model. It's just like buy this or don't buy garbage. So 16 by 9, if you take a frame 4K, you can get up to 400 fps, like 398. If you are flexible with little bit top and bottom, you can easily get exact 400 frames per second. Again, it will keep going to 800 if you squash it down to 2K. So same thing happens with almost every single camera, high speed camera specifically, because the throughput of the data throughput is the main limiting factor. It's not the sensor, it's the data throughput. So if you can read faster, you can squash more frame in. So you can like, hey, this much is like, they will say like, I can read 1 gigapixel per minute. So it's like, okay, that means let's say 1000 frames. Like, what if I half the frame? Now it's 2000 frame. What if I quarter it? Now it's 4000. That's how you can have high speed camera that can keep going. Minimum would be like, hey, it can only do 400. No, you can get 2000, 4000, or even 9000 in the maximum in this case. But again, your frame size will become postage stamp. Again, is that useful? Yes. For many scientific things, they are like, shut up and take my money. That's how all high speed camera works. Again, it's basically utilization. It's like, hey, if we can do 400, what if somebody is like, hey, I don't need more what you call temporal resolution, spatial resolution. I don't need that megapixel count, but I do need temporal. I need to see finer slices of time. That higher FPS is desirable. So this was the wave, and you can see that they are directly focusing on the market for drones. They do not have monitor. You can put your own monitor. Again, it's both a double-edged sword. Benefit, you can get to put a good monitor on, and you do not have to worry like, I have a useless monitor on the bottom. No, you don't. It's like you put whatever you need to. Side effect, you always have to put something on, otherwise you will be unable to use this. So there are pros and cons. This was Mark 1 product. Now they are soon gonna be releasing Ember, which is Mark 2 variant of this. Same sensor size, almost the same Control-C, Control-V of the technology, but upgraded from the feedback. So now they have beefed up the processor, beefed up the RAM and all that jazz. The RAM is like cache memory and all that. This puppy can do 800 frames per second for 4K, and it is only 800 grams, which is surprisingly light for high-speed camera. And this puppy has 4 terabytes. So at the time of me making this video, they were targeting $18,000 in price, 14.5 lakhs in Indian rupees, and they have learned from a lot from their mistakes, and they were like, people are like, dude, you do not have cage for it, and your camera is not selling enough. So this time cage is from day one, because again, if you want to mount it for a drone, that's okay, one bolt done, go home. But if you are mount to anything else, any sort of rig, this is no longer good enough. So cages are something that they are directly developing. And they are also planning a lot of upgrades, meaning this puppy will be launched does not mean that's it, this is all you get. They are working around the clock to get this puppy working, because again, everybody complains, it's like, dude, once the memory fills up, I have to dump that memory in order to flush it out. Dumping is slow simply because the USB chip they are using is only 5 Gbps. Mind you, normal basic motherboard nowadays can easily give you 20 Gbps ports. So this is basically the bottleneck. They are using the oldest standard of USB 3. Again, it's a problem with USB forums. It could have been like USB 3, USB 4, USB 5, USB 6, but they're like, no, 3, X2 versus X5 versus Hulululu versus Jingalala. So we simplified it by saying Gbps. So 5 Gbps, very slow. Again, if you record like 4 terabyte, 5 Gbps transfer, it will take like almost half an hour or even more than that to dump. So fundamentally, they are left a expansion port that is PCI Express port, and they are working with other company to create this sort of NVMe sticks, and this sticks you will put your NVMe, or again they will sell you that, and it will have its own USB-C high-speed controller, and direct, instead of writing file directly to the camera, it will be able to directly record on these two things. And that's far more desirable, because be mindful, SSD do wear out. That's why all flash modules always come with what we call trim leveling, or like, you know, wear leveling. Is like, why the heck, what is there to wear out? Electron gate, basically the place where electron is being forced to stay and being pulled out when you are reading it. It puts strain on that basically semiconductor structure that is holding that electron. We call it electron gate. So you go in, go out, go in, go out, go in, go out. After a while, the gates are like, bro, I can't do this anymore. And yeah, that's when you have issues with, like, you know, that's why wear leveling is important, because if one chip goes too low, it can take out a whole block. So they always want to level out it. It's like, hey, if everything fails at the same time, okay, you lose the block. If you're like one bit failed and you lost a whole sector for it, that's a really wasteful. That's why you do not want memory directly embedded in your camera. You always want memory as an option, because again, even in this camera, which is like a basic Canon 800D, I already wore through 2 SD cards running full HD video. Imagine how fast I will run through cards if I'm doing 4K or in this speed. Like again, NVMe is good, but flash chips is inherently limited. They cannot last forever. They will last much longer than SSD, HDD, but not forever. So that's why having replaceable sticks far more desirable. This is a good approach, and I'm happy that they did not like, oh, next model will fix it. No, this is no model. You can buy it, use it right now, and we are working on our making a better solution. I like this approach. Where it's like create a product again. The battery is now V mount and all that jazz. Everything is basically they're learning from the feedback. So I'm kind of happy. Like this approach on the system is really good. So let's look at what we can expect in the future. Well, they do have a lot of technology, like directly going to global shutter, good. Directly going to NVMe rather than RAM issue, awesome. But they do not have greatest quality, especially with the older one. You can see I have provided a video down below. In low light, and again, high speed is always low light, it does not have very clean sensor readout, meaning you will have weird noises, weird pattern, and it does happen. It's the side effect of the sensor itself, but again, it's your job to compensate for it. Meaning if you ever get the direct sensor data from, let's say, iPhone camera or Samsung camera, you'll be like, what the hell is this? It's garbage. The SoC does a lot of polishing work to make it useful. So that has to be done by every camera company, be it Red, be it Alexa and all that jazz. It always has to be done. So whenever you're talking about high-speed camera and it's like, oh, it does not look good, that's not an excuse. Like even Phantom, they had to deal with it, and that's why the primary reason that they are so expensive. Like they're very thorough with their sensor selection, and not to mention all the polish they have to do on the footage. Polish as in like how the sensor is being read as the noise floor basically. So they do have a very good image quality nowadays, because again, you can use their where majority of the people are consuming data on a screen that is this size. So for Instagram, for YouTube, all that jazz, it's more than good enough. It's shut up and take my money kind of good. But is it good enough that you can blow it out on a like a cinema screen? Again, if you have no other system and the fact of temporal resolution is more important than spatial resolution telling the story, you will use it. Again, for many people, it's like, dude, slow motion is good enough there. People are like, dude, I don't care whether it has some background noise. It's like slow motion. Ooh, look cool. They're like, shut up and take my money. So image quality does need a lot of improvement. That was in the Mark 1. Mark 2 reviews are not in yet, but again, do expect some to be like, okay, good. I have seen a lot of, they upload a lot of untampered video on Vimeo. I've checked them out and they are better, but do not expect to be like, slow-mo guy level kind of good. Like it's good, but not that good. It does need some elbow grease. I genuinely wish they fixed the E-mount issue, because again, E-mount is a really good, healthy lens mount at this point in time, but it's pointless because it's not active. And again, other camera companies have sorted it out. It's like, dude, putting active E-mount is not that difficult. It's like, put that. Because again, many Sony and other lenses are useless. You have to go with drive-by-wire. So basically, you have to let go of drive-by-wire, which is majority of lenses and majority of upcoming lenses. Unless you are buying cine lenses or documentary lenses, things of that nature. Those are very expensive. So like a cheap camera with hyper expensive lens does not make sense. So I really wish they would have fixed it. But all that being said, this was the original granddaddy. And then we had Chronos, which was a good alternative. Again, both of them have RAM sticks. Then this comes along. And again, it's a very good, like very expensive, very cheap, medium cost. And again, NVMe storage. For many people like, hey, I don't have to worry about trigger. Shut up and take my money. And if you have ever noticed with slow-mo guys, they always have this hand trigger. That's what they're doing. That trigger tells the computer in this puppy is like, hey, stop, dump the RAM data into memory. Here is like, yeah, it's like NVMe is so fast, it's like, let it come in. Let it come in. And again, the GPS that they are reading out of is like only 1 Gbps, capital B. And I'm pretty sure you can just buy NVMe SSD right now that can easily do 3 Gbps. That is cheap. And right now, if you are willing to pay, go to server level, that's like 10 Gbps. That's like, bro, let it in. NVMe was designed with that way. Like SATA was designed for its time to be way ahead. NVMe is designed here to be way ahead. And again, NVMe is independent from PCI structures in a way where it's like, hey, PCI 2.0 works, PCI 3.0 still works, PCI 4.0. So it can keep getting speed bumps without any issue. So it's a really unique approach, and I really love the idea that there are more competition even on low end. So these two are almost on the similar price. This is on a god tier price, but again, you have options. For many people, this is like shut up and take my money. For many people, this is shut up and take my money. For people who have very deep pockets, shut up and take my money. It's a really good world that we're living in, because again, I really like what Kfinity is directly aiming for Red camera. And again, the reason Red camera is not dethroned yet is because of a patent, if you have watched my last video, and there is thankfully no patent war I have seen so far. So I think this camera ecosystem could become the next thing, as in like, oh, high speed camera is something that common people can buy. or at least medium scale YouTubers, or because again, advertisement and music video, they love high speed camera. They just love it. In advertisement industry is just like running on high speed. So again, it's a really good tool that is coming down on price, and I'm happy with it. The more competition, the more unique ways of people working on it. GG. So this was my presentation on this unique company, FreeFly. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it among your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.